Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot where we have a problem. A fairly major problem actually, and I had no idea until Grown Local saw one of my videos. He was watching, a good friend of the channel, and he said, JB, I think you've got a problem. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? No, it's fine, I haven't seen any of that. And then I looked a bit closer. And he was very, very right. And what did he see? What is the problem? Well, it's in here in the greenhouse, and it's my cucumbers. You see how they've got this kind of mixture of dark green and yellow? Hopefully that's coming across quite well. That one doesn't look too bad. This one, a slightly better example. And then the ones over here, well, you can really see the problem there. And the main reason I wanted to talk about this today is mainly just as a kind of public service announcement, bit of a PSA, bit of a, new beginner gardeners beware of this problem, because I had no idea how much it could get out of hand. Around the outside here, you can see it even more really, really yellow leaves. And in fact, I've had this for a long time as well. I think this started a long time ago, and I thought it was just a feeding deficiency or something like that. But this is apparently indicative textbook damage of the red spider mite. I've just stepped into the greenhouse and I've noticed, unfortunately, this tomato is completely fallen over, and I'm a little bit worried because this quad grow pot was completely halfway out, so it might not have got enough water. But that's another thing I need to fix. But down here, look at the size of this marigold bush. Apparently, marigolds don't really deter red spider mite. But down here, look at that. First one's just coming up. So it's not all doom and gloom in here, which is very good. Because although the red spider mite's particular favourite seems to be cucumber, especially in my greenhouse, they are pretty unselective when it comes to what plants they like to feed on. And they explode. Their populations explode really rapidly, similar to aphids, and I'm very, very worried about all the tomatoes just next door. These are all grown in very close proximity as well. I'm just looking at this, looking for any signs of damage on the tomatoes. I think that seems to be just natural dieback. But they are absolutely tiny, tiny, tiny little things. The thing you're likely to notice first is this patination on the leaves, and that is caused by the spider mites kind of piercing the leaves and sucking out the sap, and each of these kind of cells will be killed by it. They seem to be a lot more aggressive with their damage compared to like an aphid. And then the second thing you might see, once you really start to look, it's like just in here, there's a tiny, tiny fine webbing, and those little specks you can see, I'm pretty sure they are the eggs of the red spider mite. And at first all I could see were those little bits here and there and the damage on the leaves, and then once I started looking closer, I realised the extent of the problem. And you can see here, this is a big, big section of webbing. They've kind of made a home here where the leaf has curled over. And the webbing acts a bit like a nursery for their young. It's where they lay the eggs. I think it's probably a kind of protection from predators. And unfortunately, they are all over these plants. I've showed how there's kind of a crazy mess with the melons. I've just kind of let do their thing, and I was really, really shocked to find when I came down here just a couple of days ago to look. Actually, one of the melons is completely dead, and it looks like it's probably been dead for a very long time. This is all that remains of this first one that I put in, and this is partially due to its location. I think it probably doesn't get that much light compared to the one at the back that gets the morning sun. But the spider mite damage is extensive in here. You can see all the dead leaves and the webbing, and this is what happens if you leave it unchecked. So it's when you really want to try and nip in the bud. And today I'm going to be kind of removing a lot of the vegetation and giving it a bit of a spray. The problem is that if you don't catch it early, spider mites apparently become very resistant to insecticide, and I'm just very, very worried. It's kind of a damage limitation thing at this point. I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of a neem oil drench. I've spoken loads about neem oil. These things are sap suckers. Anything that's a sap sucker should be affected by neem oil, fingers crossed. And I've got a bit of SB plant invigorator in the shed, which is both a kind of insecticide, but also it's meant to be full of stuff to support your plants and hopefully let them bounce back a bit, because like I say, this is very, very aggressive damage. It doesn't take much for them to just completely kill off your leaves and then you can just lose your crop. I'm pretty laid back about insects and pests and these kind of problems, but this one you have to be vigilant for, because it will just spiral out of control. They really can apparently just explode, and I'm really shocked at how much damage they've done already. Another silver lining, we do have the fruit just starting to form. If you've been watching Tony C. Smith's cucumber developments, it's really interesting how our cucumbers were almost perfectly in sync, just as he was talking about his not starting. Mine were the same, they hadn't put out any fruit, and I gave them a really good prune, a bit of a feed, and they've just exploded in flowers, and they are laden with fruit. So the good news is, even if these plants are on the way out, we should still get a decent little bit of a crop, because these aren't going to die instantly. But you can see in the background there, just a bit more of that damage and the webbing. And the problem is, because they're so small, they are almost microscopic. You can't really physically remove them, you know. It's not like aphids that you can go around blasting off with a hose or squishing. It just doesn't work with these. They're so small. Oh God, no. I was just trying to get a shot of the underside of the leaves to show you how small they are, and I've just noticed, look, there's webbing all over these tomatoes. That looks like it. I hope that's just a blemish as well, not a bit of blossom end rot there. Oh God, it's all gone wrong. Apparently one of the other things about the red spider mite is it doesn't like humidity. Now this is a thing, apparently people say it really likes the hot and the dry, but Ian, who I was talking to from Growing Local, he was saying his polytunnel is nearly at 100% humidity, and he's spotted them on his. And I've basically been going around warning my neighbours about this, because I've seen a few of their cucumbers have the same patination, so just be on the lookout. I'm going to get in here, take off all the vegetation that looks like it's past it, so the plant can focus on the new vegetation. Apparently as well, once the leaves get damaged, it really increases the rate of transpiration and all that kind of thing. So it's really unhealthy to leave those damaged leaves on the cucumbers. Wish me luck. I can't believe it's on the tomatoes too. Hopefully we've caught it in time. If anyone does have any tips on how to manage these or prevent them, please do let me know. From what I understand, it's the females that overwinter. They can overwinter in leaves, in greenhouses, pretty much anywhere where there's a little bit of shelter. And then it only takes one female to land in your greenhouse, and then they can just explode. So I don't think prevention is really an option. I think it's just one you need to be really vigilant about. But any tips, gratefully appreciated. I'm gonna fill this up with all the damaged stuff. Sometimes this is what gardening's like, isn't it? You know, you have to take the losses with the wins. It's looking dramatically different. That was difficult and tough and fiddly. It feels like I've done surgery basically on this cucumber and the tomato next door, because I'm very worried about the proximity of the tomatoes. Let me show you inside. I have had to remove a drastic amount of vegetation. The melon had about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 really well established side shoots, so that is going to take a big knock. To be honest, I'm not sure any of these plants are going to make it. There's one leaf I've left here actually that we should probably take off, yeah. There's just a little bit of webbing on there. The actual leaf looks quite clean, but what I've discovered is that even on the kind of the clean leaves that haven't got any damage yet, like this one, that is actually quite a healthy looking leaf. But if you spin it over, I don't even know if you'll be able to see them on here. They are so small. But despite this being a healthy leaf, I can see there are spider mites under here. They are like tiny little grains of sand. Honestly, so difficult to see. Next thing for me to do is make up some of the SB plant invigorator. And I'm gonna give this a really good spraying down, making sure to get the underside of the leaves as well, because that seems to be where they're all collecting. And as well, something else I've noticed, one of their other favorite places to hang out are these little kind of branch unions, I guess, where you get the side shoots that come off, or the leaves. Hopefully you can see there's just a tiny bit of webbing in here. So I've been going through and manually kind of on all of these, removing some of the webbing. just doing what I can really. So I just made up this SB Invigorator spray, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'd just do a little bit of tomato pruning first, because it's been I don't know, a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days. It's probably about 20 minutes later. I got slightly carried away. I've been taking out absolutely loads just because everything is planted so close. It becomes quite difficult to see what's going on in there. Really easy to miss like massive side shoots that have gotten away. So it's looking a lot clearer in there now. And as well, of course, doing all this means it should be a bit easier to see what's going on with the spider mites and if they're spreading to all the other plants as well. Now with this spray, I'm going to try and be quite systematic, making my way up from the bottom of the stem, getting the underside of all the leaves and stuff. I'm a little bit nervous because I've never used this before. I don't know if it might damage the leaves, but these plants are on their way out. If they don't get something, I'm pretty sure the spider mites are going to finish them off. So I'm going to go quite heavy on the cucumbers and the melons, and then this next door tomato, I'm just going to give a light going over. I've spent a little bit of time as well while pruning, looking at the other tomato plants, and I think for the most part, touch wood, they're clear. A little bit nervous about putting this on the tomatoes as well, which are obviously going to be eaten hopefully quite soon, and the cucumbers, but apparently it is safe at this kind of dilution. It's just 10 ml in a litre, and obviously you wash your produce first, so it should be okay. I'm making sure though to get quite a lot of the stem, because I know that I can see them on the stem as well, hiding. It does smell very strong. It smells quite soapy. This big main leaf I left as a bit of a kind of like a litmus test or a canary in the coal mine. I'm going to see how this leaf develops in terms of its damage. I've got some nice footage of it, so we can see if it recovers or gets worse. I did mean to say as well, I wouldn't normally jump to something like this. SB Invigorator, it's not organic. It has a really good reputation, but it is a kind of chemical pesticide, which is not great. One other option you have for spider mites is biological control. I think there's 4 different species of predatory insects you can buy for these, but a lot of them need really stable temperatures of around kind of 15 to 20 degrees, which we do not have at the moment. And as well, I think they're more something to get ahead of time as a bit of a preventative when you've got something that's just on the tip of a complete infestation explosion. I think normally those kind of predatory insects aren't the best thing. I've not looked into it properly, so I could be wrong, and I don't know how expensive they are as well, but I just assume they're quite expensive, and I did have some of this SB Invigorator in the shed, so we'll go with that. Hopefully this is going to work now. We just got to monitor the situation. If you've got any tips or advice, please do let me know in the comments. But thank you ever so much for watching, and an extra special thank you to my Chili Pepper tier patrons, Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Michael, Mel, Denise, Socks in the Garden, and Craig. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.